Hi everyone and welcome to part 2 of the tutorial for Rachel's Lullaby. Part 1 was released last week and covered both the intro and the verse. In part 2 we'll be taking a look at the chorus, the bridge as well as the ending. If you are looking for tablature notation files or early access to other tutorials, then please head over to the Patreon site and join up. Enjoy the lesson. The second verse is the exact same thing, only the very ending to transfer to the chorus is a little bit different, but you will see it is a very minor difference. Going to pick up the pace just slightly for the repeat of the second verse. That is the only difference. That last G chord is only 1 bar instead of 2 bars. After that G chord, we're launching straight into the chorus, which is luckily a little bit easier than the first part of the song. Here we go, one time in full, then all the explanation will follow. Straight into the next verse. Now, the chorus, as you can see, the chorus consists of a straight arpeggio pattern, very similar to what happens in the intro. You're playing an F major triad, pinky 8th fret on the A string, ring finger 7th fret on the D string, index finger 5th fret on the G string, and then 2 open strings, so the B string and the E string have to remain open. Picking pattern, the exact same thing, thumb, index, thumb, middle finger, so thumb on the A string, index finger on the G string, thumb on the D string, and then middle finger most of the time on the B string. One time he will have to pop over to the high E string as well. This is the picking pattern. That's the picking pattern all the way through. You play this pattern 6 times in total, but the 3rd and the 5th time the middle finger will have to play the high E string instead of the B string. Second time, then back to the B string, back to the E string, and then to round it out with no open B string to round out those 3 bars, you have to shift right away to the 3rd fret for a overlapping note into the G chord. One more time, really slowly. First time, B string, second time, B string, E string, back to the B string, back to the E string, back to the B string, with the ring finger on the 3rd fret. And now this is played loosely in strumming. Sometimes Tommy plays 2 strums, sometimes he plays 1. You can play this a bit more freely than what is down below in the tab. So this is the basic idea. The parts that stay the same are the bass note, chord, and then a hammer-on from the open A string to the 2nd fret, and again 1 or 2 strums. And then after that it's back to that same F major voicing. Those first 4 bars. Back to that same F chord, playing the exact same thing in the beginning. And now instead of going back to that open B string, we are pulling an open E string in front of the beat. So only 2 bars of that F chord now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, to an open E string on that 4th beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then making sure that low E note keeps ringing out as you add that E minor chord on top on the 1st beat of the next bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's the effect you're going for. Adding in a ring finger on the 2nd fret on top to the pinky on the 3rd fret. Sliding up with that pinky to the 7th fret. To that same A chord we played before with the pinky on top. Removing the pinky to get a full A minor 7th chord, so going from an A minor 9th to an A minor 7th chord. Sometimes Tommy plays this with a strum of the thumb pick, as I'm doing now. Sometimes he will arpeggiate it using the fingers. You can pretty much pick whatever works best for you in this case. And then to a tricky voicing, pinky 12th fret on the D string, and then a bar across 3 frets on the 8th fret, 3 strings on the 8th fret to a C minor 9th chord. Those bars back to back. And then from there on, Tommy leaves that chord ringing out for just a second, and then he will go into an arpeggiating part. So let me count along. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's where he initiates that little arpeggio part, starting on the 2nd beat of the next bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Adding in the middle finger on the 10th fret. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And then playing the same arpeggio with the ring finger added on the 11th fret of the G string. If this is easier for you, you can move down the bar just a little. You don't need those 3 strings anymore. 2 strings is enough now. So those arpeggios back to back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And then from there on, it's straight into the next verse. That was the full chorus. Now let me play everything back to back up to this point, and then we only have the bridge to cover and the ending, and those are kind of similar. So most of what you need to know is already sort of in your fingers. Here we go. One time the chorus, really slowly. Full chorus. Now we're launching straight into the next verse, which is again that shorter verse. So you're playing only the 2nd part of what we saw up until now, what was the complete verse. So that strumming part going upward, that first bit is gone. We're only playing the 2nd half of the verse now. Again, 1 bar of G right behind that 1 half of the verse, then it's straight into the chorus again. Same thing, and then straight back into the 2nd half of the verse. No G chord in the end, we're leaving out that G chord altogether, and we're going straight for an E minor chord heading into the bridge. One more time, that last section. Straight into the bridge. that last part sounds familiar. That's completely logical. It is the end part of each chorus with a bit of a twist in the timing. Now let's have a look at the opening of the bridge first. You're starting with an E minor chord. Now Tommy does this thing where he often does. He plays those bottom two strings, second fret on both the A and the D string, with one single finger. I play this the standard way, using the index finger and the middle finger, and even then the index finger is safety. You're not using the A string, but I just put it down for safety measures anyway, with a third fret on the high E string on top. Throughout the bridge, there will be one consistent thing that pops up on each and every chord. You're starting out with the bottom note and the top note together on the first beat. And from there on, the bass part will start alternating, and you will, yet again, be mostly arpeggiating, alternating between the index finger and the middle finger. Basically, again, more or less the same thing as in the intro. Second bar is exactly the same, apart from that very last open B string. We leave that out to grant ourselves a little bit of extra time to switch over to the B minor chord. On the B minor chord, exactly same thing, bottom note and top note together, and in between that and the end of the bar, just arpeggiating. Again, leaving out that last chord tone to be able to switch over to a C added ninth, middle finger third fret, index finger, ring finger third fret, pinky third fret on the A string, B string and G string. And now we're adding in a little melody, but the start of the bar, exactly the same thing, bottom note and top note play together. And for this chord, you will have to move the thumb pick all the way over to the open G string, which doesn't happen really that often. Most of the time we're sticking to the bottom three strings, but this time you need to play the bass line up to the G string. There's a bit more movement in this one. So the first beat, bottom note, top note together, and then swapping the pinky out for the index finger second fret on the high E string, together with the bass note on the G string, and pulling off right away. Back to the C bass note, and then the middle finger on the D note to top it off. Rounding out the bar with a final open G string as a bass note. Remember that if you look down in the tab, each open G string in this bar is played with a thumb pick. Now, before we move on to the next section, which is something that is more difficult in terms of timing than what you have to play, I'm first going to play those 4 bars back to back. To an E minor chord, but we're only using the open E string and the open G string. Then thumb over the side of the neck, second fret, index finger, second fret on the G string, and then Tommy leaves that index finger on the G string as he moves to the G chord, which means playing the low G, middle finger, third fret on the low E string, and an open B string, but he leaves that second fret ringing out through the G chord, which gives you a G added ninth sound. And now this is the part where you have to pay special attention to what happens in the timing, because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're landing with that G bass note on the 4th beat. Tommy immediately continues the alternating bass part, which might give you the impression that that low G note is the new first beat and you have sort of a bar change from 3-4 to 4-4, which is not the case. So you have to pay extra attention in the next bar not to skip a beat, and this happens really quickly. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that strum ends on the 4th beat, after which you start the second part of the bridge. So that piece of timing, it took me a while to transcribe it. I thought it was a bar change, but it isn't. It's 4/4 all the way through, but pay attention to this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And those strums are just open strings. Doesn't really matter if you pick that high open E note along with it. There are quite a few live versions where Tommy does that as well. So pay special attention to this time. It's a really important one, not to skip that last beat. Everything up to this point, back to back. Back to a B minor chord. And we know that the exact same 2 bars as we saw in the first part of the bridge, from B minor to the C chord, and then the same chords we used to conclude the chorus with each time, but this time you are playing everything on the beat. Maybe you remember that during the explanation of the chorus there were certain chords that moved in front of the beat or back behind the beat, or something that was bound over that made you wait a little bit longer. That's all gone in this case. Everything is played in terms of chords on the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So not the low E note in front of the beat and then the chord, it's just a full E minor chord right away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Again on the beat. 1, this one as well on the beat, not on the 4th beat, which means you have to get that arpeggio started a lot quicker than before. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fingerings are all the same. And then straight into the next verse. One more time, the bridge. Really slowly, you're almost done with this song. Into the last verse, which ends on the same way as the previous verse, on an E minor chord, heading into the ending. Again, half of the verse, the second half of the verse, heading into an E minor chord and into the ending. Full ending. Now, we're starting with the same E minor chord as the bridge. Moving to an A dominant 7th chord, you're starting with only the pinky up top. Now, Tommy does use, again, in the bridge, the same fingering, one finger for those 2 bass strings, while keeping down. I think he uses the ring finger on top. I use the pinky, which means that you get a little bit of a strange fingering playing that A dominant chord, which is the index finger and the pinky, and those 2 fingers in between there that aren't really doing anything. You're starting with that A dominant chord with just 2 open strings, the A string and the B string, and then you hammer on across 4 strings, so straight away from the D string to the high E string. The picking pattern, again, is the exact same thing, together on the first beat and then arpeggiating in between, using always the index finger and the middle finger in between the bass notes. You probably have that down by now. Moving to a C bar, 3rd fret, middle finger and ring finger already prepared at the 5th fret, and then hammering on with the pinky to the 5th fret as well, starting together with the bass note. So again, top note, bottom note at the same time in between the bass notes. So first landing that hammer on in between 2 bass notes, bass note on the D string and then a high melody note on top, rounding out with 1 last bass note. No bass note on the G string, on the D string again. Moving to the index finger, 5th fret, pinky 8th fret, 6th, dropping down the pinky to the 7th fret, joining in the ring finger on the G string, open D string, and that same C minor triad we played a few times before, so back to back. Little pause, and then moving to an F sus2 chord, pinky on top, index finger 1st fret on the B string, then an open G string, ring finger, middle finger on the 3rd fret, and the thumb over the side of the neck. Hefty chord. Picking pattern, again, top note, bottom note together on the first beat, bass note, and then I think Tommy uses his index finger only, brushing upward for that open G string and that B string. Which is something that feels a bit alien to me, so. And then softly brushing upward for those 2 strings in the middle of the chord. Which feels, it's the first time I'm trying this, it still feels a bit weird, but what Tommy is doing is brushing lightly upward to get those 2 strings, the B string and the G string, at the same time. And it's just lightly an upward movement. If this feels strange to you, and it still does for me, I played it with 2 fingers during the first demonstration as well. You can just play it with the index finger and middle finger. And rounding out with a full G chord to end the song with. Now, this is a hefty chord, that F chord. For people who have replaced everything with the thumb over the side of the neck so far, feel free to play this. You're going to leave out that open G string, there is no other way, just a bar across 6 strings, and then pinky 3rd fret, middle finger 2nd fret on the G string, and ring finger 3rd fret on the D string. Sounds a bit happier because you're playing a major chord instead of a sus2 chord. You could also play, just instead of playing those 2 strings, just play the C note, so the top note on the B string. That sounds a little bit less happy. To a full G chord. That was the full song. You're almost done. Let me play the ending one more time, really slowly, using the original fingers, and then you're good to go. That is all. That is Rachel's Lullaby. A cute song, but I'm sure you'll agree there are quite a few challenges in there to keep you busy for a while. As always, have fun with this one, take your time, and see you next time for more Tommy Emmanuel stuff. Bye bye.